Crypto hits a new milestone. Goldman Sachs reports digital assets now make up 1% of the world's investment portfolios. Welcome back to the Crypto ZX channel, to the XRP family. Appreciate all the love. Let's take a look at what's happening as of November 2nd and see, what's happening with the price of XRP and of course what we could be expecting as we are obviously going further into this month. Looking across the board, so far so good. Again, fingers crossed. The broader market, as of now, again, we're going into Sunday morning. Again, obviously, in a weekend, on the weekends, more manipulation due to CME futures being closed. But again, we are seeing a lot of green across the board, as you can see for yourself. And again, hopefully this momentum carries on as we are obviously going into a new week. If you're looking at the price of XRP right now, $2.53, we're actually up about 1.3% on the USD side of things, also up about 1% on the Bitcoin side of things. As far as the market cap is concerned, $152.3 billion dollars, and the 24-hour trading volume at about 1.8 billion. But before we get into any further, as always, just a quick disclaimer: anything on this channel is not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence and research when you are investing in crypto. So we really want to let this sink in, how 1% now pretty much makes a world's investment portfolio. Like, and when it comes to crypto, only 1% of that. And again, might seem small, but a few years back we weren't even at a 0.5%, and that tells you how fast things are moving. And most of this is coming over the last 2 to 3 years, in my opinion, because of course, institutional demand has increased substantially. And obviously, the year of 2025 is where, the regulation aspect really comes. And, FIs, meaning financial institutions, have that green light from the regulators to, start offering crypto to their clientele. And we've seen a huge chunk of that, come pretty much in the year of 2025. Obviously, not up and running for a lot of these financial institutions, but a lot of them have announced that they're, introducing their own trading platforms, crypto custody services, partnering with crypto companies. Again, speaks for itself as how far this, industry has come. And again, 1%. As of now, I think we're going to be looking back at it in the future and saying, that was very little. Of course, the best way to look at it is people make the comparison every time. Oh, the crypto market is so high now. Again, it's almost sitting at about $4 trillion. But when you look at it from a gold perspective, when you look at it from a traditional market perspective, it's still peanuts. When obviously, if you kind of go back a few years, that was just the early days, the wild wild west. And some can still argue that it is still the wild wild west, but I personally think, we are shifting away from that title for the crypto industry. But big stuff here. Trump has finally reached a trade deal with China. Remember, this was something we've been talking about for quite some time. They had a meeting just last week, and now they have officially have a trade deal. And I think this is a positive thing moving forward. Obviously, as we do go further into the year, which is pretty much just 2 months left at this point. Moving forward, the Bitwise Solana ETF didn't even trade on Monday, still finished the week number one in crypto ETF flows with a $417 million, 4 days, big time Solana ETF debut. Indeed, that's huge. And we're going to continue to talk about the ETF numbers because this just gives us a better understanding as to, what XRP numbers could look like. And now on crypto Twitter, you're starting to see, a battle between Solana and, the community of the XRP start to kind of, compare and, see which one is better. And, people are starting to see which one is going to perform better in terms of debut. We already have the numbers for Solana. And obviously, we've heard a lot of big things in regards to, the XRP ETF. There was an amendment made by Canary Capital themselves. So, are we about to see, an XRP ETF going live soon? Obviously, in terms of, the deadline for that ETF decision, it's sometime in November, I think 14th, if I'm not mistaken. We shared that in the last update. So, sometime around that timeline, pretty much, I think a few days, a week after that Ripple swell event, which again is about 3 days away or 2 days away from now on. So again, very interesting stuff happening. Let me know in the comments what you guys personally think. But take a look at this. Last week saw $2.18 billion in long liquidation, which is insane to think of. And we know why that happened because, of course, we were seeing pretty much the market all over the place as far as Bitcoin is concerned. So that is obviously something we want to kind of keep in mind. But take a look at this. Bitwise, Cosmo Tim mentions XRP ETF alongside Solana. You've got XRP and a couple of other ETFs coming through. The XRP ETF era is getting closer than ever. Obviously, people are talking about, when is this really going to happen? Maybe, we're going to wait for the, government shutdown to end. I think, we should be coming close to it because, we're approaching like about, I think, 3 weeks at this point. A little, yeah, 3 weeks. I think we're approaching 3 weeks. So, again, I think it's imminent at this point based off of, things that are happening. The fact that, we have seen three ETFs go live, I think that just kind of sets a little bit of a better understanding as, what direction we're really going into now. And that happened like instantly as well. All three gone at once. Obviously, Bitcoin was the first one, and then, Ethereum, and then we haven't seen anything since then. But then, we saw that happen just a few days back, which again is historical to say the least for the broader market. But again, let me know your thoughts down below in regards to that. But I totally agree with Crypto Inside UK. He says XRP community sentiment feels as bad right now as it did around this time last year. And, pretty much I totally agree with that. So again, last year, we obviously remember XRP was sitting at 50 cents price point. So, let's actually put it into perspective. I think, you guys will really understand as to, what this really means. Take a look at this, guys. XRP was sitting right here at 50 cents. And I guarantee you, so many people wish they could go back around that price point and pick it up there. Because if you want to put this into perspective, November 2nd, we were sitting at 45 cents. Since then, it's up 446%. And that's after having a pullback from its all-time high, well, unofficial all-time high, of course. So that's something a lot of people don't realize. And that's something I never wrap my head around. And I've shared that on the channel before because, people talk about, oh, XRP this, XRP that. But did everyone forget where the price of XRP was 12 months ago? Again, I'm going to continue to remind you guys not to forget about that because that is a very, very important thing to realize. And, the price is consolidating not in, the 78.6, not in the 61 point. It's consolidating in the 38.2 Fibonacci retracement level. And before, this October 10th retracement, we were literally in the 23.6 Fibonacci retracement level. And a lot of people have forgotten that. So again, obviously, last year you can also make the statement in terms of the market structure itself is concerned. Donald Trump being elected, brought in a lot of excitement. But again, we haven't really seen an altcoin excitement come in this year. And in terms of sentiment, we're seeing pretty much rock bottom for a lot of coins across the board, and sentiment itself for the broader market is low. So that makes people wonder. So what is really causing a lot of these coins to go up? Institutional demand mainly is the driving force. But that is something you want to be looking very, very closely to. But let's move forward. JP Morgan calls Ripple a heavyweight. In the CBDC era, and Junior Research ranks its XRP based solution number one among global CBDC providers. With the digital euro approaching, it's clear Europe won't overlook Ripple's CBDC dominance, according to Smoke. But let's take a look at what's happening with the price as we are obviously going into Sunday morning. Looking at the dominance, again, I've been talking about pretty much since, October 31st, where we were last above 60%. Since then, obviously, it is down, but again, pretty much still on the verge of 60%. But again, we are still lower than that. So obviously, that's something we want to keep in mind. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is having a good time over the last few hours. You can see for yourself, it is picking up steam. Um, Again, we're still in a weekend. That's something I want you guys to keep in mind. But Bitcoin did come up to $111,000, which again is the monthly high for the month of November so far. And you can see, we got rejected at that key range. But as I mentioned in my H bar update as well, I want to see the price of Bitcoin try to get back above $112,000 in the next few hours to come before we go into Monday. I think that would be a good sign, in my opinion. But again, still remaining in the 23.6, not seeing volatile moves. Will definitely take that as of now. XRP price, on the other hand, let's take a look at it on an hourly perspective, of course. So as you can see, we're ranging, above this key level. We did come up to, this price point at $2.53, almost $2.54. But again, remember the $2.55 key resistance I've talked to you guys about before. That's the level to be looking out for right now in the next few hours. Breaking above there also. So if Bitcoin is able to break above 112, I think XRP won't have any hard time breaking above the $2.55 key resistance. I think that would would pretty much set its stone to start heading up to where we were just last week. So again, not bad in terms of what's happening for Bitcoin or XRP, especially considering we're in a weekend. But again, step by step, let me know in the comments what you guys personally think, and appreciate all the love. We'll see you later in Crypto ZX, and peace out.